What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, UFC Adesanyo vs Costa does 700K plus pay-per-view buys. Boxing, Charlo's doubleheader does 100K to 120K pay-per-view buys. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life for riches, huh? That life for riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glizzy, run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Alright, boxing fans, let's chop up this pay-per-view numbers and see what we can come up with. So, the UFC pay-per-view numbers came out, and the boxing doubleheader with the Charlo's pay-per-view came out. As you all know, the fights, both fights, the UFC and the boxing card, was on the same night, basically at the same time. Okay, so naturally we're gonna, that would cause a problem. So the from what we're looking at here on the heading that I have above here, it says the Charlo's pay-per-view did 700. It did 100 to 120K, and the Costa Adesanyo pay-per-view did 700 plus K, almost 800K pay-per-view buys to 100K pay-per-view buys to 120K for the Charlos. So you see, it's a big difference. The UFC card, had almost 10 times as much pay-per-view buys as the boxing card with the Charlos. Okay, so that is what it is. So let's take a look at the numbers as they came out. Okay, let's look at the Charlos first, and here you see these numbers. Mike Coppinger, which is a pretty good source, he came out with the numbers, and he says here that on Thursday they reporter Mike Coppinger from the Athletic tweeted out a higher number, at least 100,000 sources, at least 100,000 pay-per-view by sources told him. So, sources, Showtime pay-per-view doubleheader featuring the Cgarlo Twins is expected to generate more than 100,000 pay-per-view buys. That's 100K, with a chance to top out at 120K pay-per-view buys. Okay, so as we can see here, it's 100K. They're saying it's going to do 100K, and it might top out at about 120K. So that's what it is. Okay, so those are the numbers that came out for the Jamal and Jamel doubleheader. Okay, all right, so we can go and look at the UFC pay-per-view numbers now. And here we see that report UFC Adesanyo vs Costa by 700K plus pay-per-view buys. Okay, so 700K to 100K to 120K. So as you can see, the boxing, got the bad end of the stick on this one. Okay, basically, like I said, the UFC pay-per-view card did almost 10 times as much as the boxing pay-per-view card. They both came out at the same time. All right. So we have to ask ourselves, why is that? How come, a card like the Charlos, it was Jamal Charlo versus Derevyanchenko, and he had Jamel Charlo versus Jason Rosario. Now, none of these two guys, Rosario nor Derevyanchenko is that well known by the casual fan of boxing. I mean, they're known by the boxing pundits and the boxing experts and so forth and so on. But the average fan don't know these guys. They're not really big names like that. Okay, Jason Rosario was basically unknown until he won the two titles from Julian Williams. Okay, he stopped Julian Williams, I think, in the 6th or the 5th round. To take the new title. So basically, before that, he was just another prospect coming up, or a journeyman coming up in the ranks. and he got the fight, and he did, you know, like in boxing, anything that happened in boxing, and he got the title. So, but prior to that, nobody really knew much about him. And you know, Derevyanchenko, you know, he's another guy. I mean, he's pretty well known to the boxing experts and the boxing pundits, but to the casual fan, they probably didn't know about him. He fought a good fight with which a lot of people thought he won against Triple G, and also he fought another fight. Who was it? I think basically this fight with Charlo was his third chance at the title, and you know he lost all three. So you know all three chances he didn't make it. Okay, so he had two losses. He had two attempts at the title prior to this attempt that he had with Charlo, and he lost both attempts. And this was the third attempt with Charlo, and he lost that as well. So these guys are not really, so, you know, Derevyanchenko and Jason Rosario are not really, you know, household names or big names or, you know, but they were pretty good fighters, you know, good, solid fighters for the Charlos, okay? So you had both Charlos, and you had those two, you know, two challengers challenging them. So I mean, all in all, the card was a pretty good card. It's not the best card in the world, but it's a solid card, okay? But as you can see by the numbers, you know, it wasn't that good, okay? Now, why is that? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but I think one of the main reasons probably is because a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with boxing at this point in time, because, you know, they're not getting the fight they want to see. You know, a lot of these fights, you know, basically a lot of them are cherry picking fights, and people, the fight that people want to see, they're not getting it, you know. So a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with the whole boxing game, okay? And you know, it is what it is. I mean, you see the 700K the UFC did. Why did they do 700K? Because in the UFC, fighters fight each other, okay? In the UFC, there's only one champion for each division. There's not 5 different champions that are all ducking each other and not fighting each other, okay? There's no, you know, you can't duck anybody in the UFC, okay? You got to fight the fight that the fans want to fight, okay? That the fans want to see. So this is what, you know, is going on in the UFC, and this is why I think UFC is gaining such popularity at the expense of boxing, you know? I mean, I'm a boxing fan for life, but you know, even I get a little, you know, frustrated with all the ducking and shucking and jiving that these fighters are doing. You know, making up excuses why not to fight each other, and you know, just it's at this point it's becoming, you know, it's out of control. Basically, that's what it is. So, you know, in the boxing, you have like 5 different champions in one weight division. Okay, sometimes these guys never fight each other. Okay, and all of them claiming that they're the champion of the world. So how can you have 5 champions of the world? You know, I don't understand that. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, even if you have 5, you know, different sanctioning bodies in each division, they should at least fight each other. You know, there should be an undisputed champ in each division. But we're not even getting those fights. Okay, we can't get those fights right now. You know, the fight that people want to see is Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Errol Spence has 2 belts. Manny Pacquiao has 1 belt, and Terence Crawford had the other belt. So people want to see, you know, all of them fight and have one champion, an undisputed champion in that division. But Manny Pacquiao is somewhere off, somewhere hiding. I mean, I'm not going to say he's hiding, but he's not really fighting anybody. He's basically holding that belt hostage, okay? Errol Spence is over there on the other side, on the PBC side. He has the 2 belts. He got all these different fights lined up. He claims, well, he does have these fights lined up, but he's lined up all these fights to basically not fight Terence Crawford, okay? And even his trainer, you know, I mean, it's Errol Spence is on record saying that he would rather take the easier route, you know, than to fight Terence Crawford. I mean, he said it from his own mouth. I mean, I didn't make that up. He said that, okay? And that he would rather take the easier route to fight Sean Porter than to fight Terence Crawford, and that's what he did. He took the easier route to fight Sean Porter, but at the end of the day, the Sean Porter fight wasn't easy he thought it was going to be. It was one of his toughest fights ever. As a matter of fact, it was his toughest fight of his career, and he almost lost. So that's the state of boxing, okay? So these type of things can't happen in the UFC because the Terence Crawford Errol Spence fight, if it was the UFC, it would have happened maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago by now. It would have happened a long time ago. Okay? But in boxing, we it's possible, it's conceivable that we might go another 2 years without even seeing that fight. We might never see the fight because according to Derek James, who was Errol Spence's manager, Errol Spence's legacy does not depend on him fighting Crawford. So that's just another way of saying that he can go his whole career without fighting Crawford, the fight that people want to see. It might not never happen. And Derek James doesn't seem to have any problem with that. Okay, he say, hey, it could happen, and the same thing with Crawford. I mean, same thing with Errol Spence. I mean, I heard him out there saying that, he's going to fight Terence Crawford before he leaves the division. But when is that going to be? I mean, before you leave the division, that could be 4 or 5 years from now. It could be 2, 3 years from now. Okay, people want to see the fight now. They wanted to see the fight yesterday. That fight should have happened a year ago. If you want to be real about it, that fight should have happened at least a year ago. But here we are. Fight still not happening. Okay, people calling for the fight, and these guys are just shucking and jiving and dancing around, trying not to make the fight happen. So basically, this is what's going on in boxing, and you can contrast that with UFC, where these guys fight right away. Okay, if fighters call each other, like for example, let's take Adesanyo, the last style bender, the UFC fighter. As soon as he beat his fighter, he doesn't even wait for the challengers to call him out. He called them out. Okay, he's calling out the toughest guys in this division. Okay, so this is the difference between and those fights are gonna be made, and they're made just like that. Okay, you don't take 2-3 years to make the fights. In the UFC, the fights happen right away. So that's the difference, I think, between the UFC and boxing. And that's why, the UFC has the edge when it comes to pay-per-view buys, because people want to see the fights that they want to see, and they want to see the best fighting the best, okay? And so they get to see that in the UFC. There's no doubt about that, okay? And so these are what the numbers represent. So now, in the boxing world, there's a lot of things going on in boxing, a lot of things wrong with boxing. Some of these, commentators that we have in boxing today, so-called, some of these guys claim they're new media, LDBC, whatever, a lot of different guys out there. And, they're out there pushing various narratives, to promote their various fighters that they like or don't like. Okay, I mean, they're not really, to me, they're not really commentators. They're just basically fanboys, pushing narratives for their fighters. I mean, a lot of these guys do it for money, they get paid to do it. Okay, so they're basically prostitutes. Okay, they're not journalists or press. They're just prostitutes. They're to the highest bidder. Okay, they push narratives, based on what they're getting paid on the side or in the background or whatever, or their super chat or whatever, okay? And they're pushing these false narratives, basically to make a dollar. And, and these type of things, like I say, things like this is what's wrong with boxing. As a matter of fact, they basically, as a matter of fact, before I even go any further, let's listen to one of them right now and see what he had to say about this pay-per-view, the 100K buy pay-per-view card that the Charlos did, and what he had to say about it. And I'm going to show you how these guys contradict themselves and how they push narratives, based on whatever criteria that they have. Like I said, a lot of these guys get paid to do it. Okay, and so let's take a listen to this one right here.
We're going to have a good show today. It's going to be a good, interesting show today. These pay-per-view numbers, we're going to talk about pay-per-view numbers. I like talking about pay-per-view numbers. People don't like to watch videos about pay-per-view numbers. But I'm going to talk about these pay-per-view numbers up in this live stream, dog. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Charlo's exceeded expectations, homie. They exceeded expectations, them Charlos, in every way, shape, or form, dog. Boxing has changed. If these people act right, dog, it's time sometimes, dog. it's just time to get a case of act right, dog. Sometimes you just got to get a case of act right. Y'all got to get a case of act right when it comes to this PBC, man. Them dudes did anywhere between 120,000 and 220,000 pay-per-views at $75 a pop. Completely cleaned off. Completely cleaned off. That's like $1.5 million, right? In pay-per-view. Now, you have the budget for the fighters. Okay, the budget for the fighters. Where Showtime says, hey, I'm going to pay you this amount of money. And I'm going to pay you this amount of money. And they pay with the money that they put down on that card for everybody. Right? That's what they put out of their budget. But now they have a pool of, say, $2 million extra dollars from pay-per-view to either offset the budget, right? Which does offset the budget, really, because that's $1.5 million worth of money being paid to fighters and to promoters and to the managers and the trainers that is not connected to the budget of Showtime. That, my friends, is getting a boost. And now that you know that there's 220,000 people that are willing to pay $75 for that type of fight, nigga, you all better be putting shit on pay-per-view. That's the only way you're going to get paid with no crowd. That's a $1.5 million gate. That offset $1.5 million for the gate. So what kind of gate would be $1.5 million? Gate, okay? With less overhead. With less overhead, because you didn't have to sell hot dogs. You know, you don't have to, nobody got to pay anybody. None of that shit. You also, along with the fact that you get the cash, you also get rid of the costs associated with having a fight in an arena. Because having a fight in an arena is not free. And it is profit that matters, not gross revenue. It's profit that matters. And from what I can see, oh yeah, that pay-per-view is highly profitable. Especially if you have a mechanism to do it like Showtime. Showtime pay-per-view. They already have the mechanism to distribute it.
Okay. So you see what he just said, right? He said that pay-per-view was profitable. Okay, and he made up his own numbers. You know, I just showed you that the pay-per-view buy was 100 to 120K. 100 to 120K, right? But he said it's 120 to 220K. So he made that up because that's not been reported anywhere. Okay? He just made up his own numbers. Okay? And he's very ecstatic about the pay-per-view. He said it was profitable. Okay? 120,000, 100K buyers to 120,000 buyers. Now, he's saying that because it's the PBC, and he's a PBC fanboy. Okay? And so, you know, he's not going to say that the numbers were disappointing because either, you know, he's getting paid to say what he's saying, or, you know, one way or the other, whether through his super chat on his fans or by some back way behind the scenes that we don't know about. But, you know, you heard what he's upbeat about the pay-per-view. I mean, he knows what the pay-per-view is, even though he's making up his own numbers. He knows that it's 100K to 120K because he saw the same report that I saw from Mike Carpenter. That's what, you know, that's where the numbers came out. That's the only numbers that came out. So there's no other numbers that came out that says that the pay-per-view buy was 200 to 20K, 120K to 220K. So basically, that was a total lie. He just made that up. Okay, and that's because he's talking about the PBC. Okay, so let's listen to him now again talk about pay-per-view numbers, but this time he's talking about Top Rank. Okay, let's check this out.
In a situation where you have many boxing fans that have nothing else to watch, They don't have anywhere else to go because still the country still is on a semi-lockdown, right? People are not going in mass to restaurants and not going out, running around, doing a lot of things other than, there's some people out there in the streets doing stuff related to police violence and police violence. I mean, you got to say brutality, just say violence. The violence related to that are out there, but for the most part, all you really got to do is boxing, right? I mean, if that's your sport and then you say that there's a boxing match on and you haven't seen a boxing match in a long time, you would think people would be jumping out of their chairs to go see it. They've got what you call pretty much a captive audience, right? So how does Bob Arum and ESPN fare with a captive audience where the people are in the house, they have access to ESPN, they're boxing fans, they should have tuned into the fight? No, not so much. The numbers came out and they had 3 cards. One was headlined by Shakur Stevenson. Another one was headed by Jesse Magdaleno. And the third one was headline between Magic Mike and why would dude name your shit Magic Mike? Magic Mike and Anthony Greer, right? So the only event of all of those to do decent numbers was Shakur Stevenson. So here are the numbers, and we'll talk about it and analyze what they at least what they mean to me in this video. But before we get into that, I gotta say, because I always forget to do this in these videos, man, thank you guys so much for subscribing. Thank you for continuing to tune into the video, on the Patreon. And thank you guys so much. The live streams, the super chats, you guys I really appreciate you. So let's go over the numbers. And so for the first card that they had was the Jesse Magdaleno, right? And they did 300, it peaked at 392,000. Peaked at 392,000. Let me tell you, that is a good ratings for a Showtime card. That's a good rating for a Showtime card that has not 1/10 of the subscribers that ESPN has. ESPN has 8, 10, millions and millions. I don't say 8 and 10 millions, way more than that. They've got, I don't know anybody that doesn't have ESPN. Let me put it that way. I know a whole bunch of people that don't have Showtime, right? So to get in the middle of a pandemic where nobody else has anything to watch in a sport that they've been starved from for months, only the most, it peaked at 397,000 392,000, and their average was 311,000 on ESPN. Terrible. The next fight, Shakur Stevenson peaked at 609,000. Now, look at this though. The average for the show for Shakur Stevenson was 397,000, right? Not too much different than the average for Jesse Magdaleno, right? He averaged 311,000. Shakur Stevenson averaged 397,000, but the peak was significantly higher at 609,000. And they all tuned in when Shakur Stevenson fought. So people were not really interested in the fights that took place before. When Shakur Stevenson got on there, 609,000 people watched Shakur Stevenson, which is a good Showtime number for a network that's that huge. Next week, Anthony Greer and and Magic Mike, 350. It averaged 350,000 and peaked at 503,000. You peaked at 500,000. Errol Spence Jr. got that. Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence Jr., Adrian Bronner, I do believe Gervonta Tank Davis, all get those numbers on Showtime when boxing is not starved. The numbers suck, Okay, that's just no other way around that. Those numbers are terrible. Now,
so there you have it. So according to him, the numbers are 500,000, 600,000, 400, 297,000. Those numbers suck. Okay? But the numbers of 120,000 to 220,000 according to him, but the actual numbers are 120,000 to 100,000. Those numbers are great numbers. That's very profitable. Okay? So you see this guy is talking out of two sides of his face, just pure hypocrisy and nonsense. I mean, the hypocrisy of these guys is staggering. I mean, these guys, it's like they don't even understand that this is the internet and that everything they say, they're actually saving these videos on their channels and people can go back and check, okay, like I did, okay? And you can see that this guy is talking out of both sides of his face. He's just talking pure nonsense. Okay, making up shit as you go along, lying. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on in boxing right now, and this is why boxing is in the state that it's in right now, and this is why the UFC is, doing so well as in comparison to boxing. Okay, it is what it is. So not only do these fighters these PBC fanboys or LDBC fanboys don't want their fighters. They not only do they make up stuff about their fighters and make up false numbers and push false narratives, they don't even want their fighters to fight each other. So these fighters are going around ducking each other because they're getting the go ahead for their fans and these so-called quote unquote commentators are co-signing this type of behavior from the fighters. Okay, are promoting that, are pushing that narrative. So that's the state of boxing right now. So I mean, I want to listen to something else. I mean, they don't even want their fighters to fight anybody. Okay? They don't. So the fighters are not. We're not getting the fights that we want to see in boxing, and the reason for that is some of these commentators and some of these fans pushing all these narratives. Basically, the commentators pushing these false narratives and going around co-signing fighters ducking each other or trying to get fighters to duck each other. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Check this out.
Black Fight Fan TV. It's your boy K-Ho putting it down for the trio boxing fans out there. Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, shout out to the whole LDBC, man. We in this thing, man. I'm out here moving and shaking, man. I just got some news and shit, man. You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm gonna address this shit, man. I normally wouldn't even address no bullshit ass fighter. You know what I'm saying? But I've been seeing this dude trying to go at Charlo since Charlo won. And I'm gonna tell you something. This Teixeira dude, calling Charlo a bitch and saying that he don't want to fight, man, you was a sack of shit, bro. You was a sack of shit. You ain't fought nobody tough. You ain't done shit. You ain't nothing but a big mangy sack of shit. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. I don't want to see that bullshit ass fight. You a bullshit fighter. And really, to tell you the truth, I don't think you want to fight. I think Oscar over there, just say his name and talk about him so you can build up stuff for your fight and everybody will be interested in your other fight. Bitch, you ain't gonna fight nobody, man. You ain't fought nobody your whole fucking career. You ain't in the mix with nobody tough. You been in this fucking division. You ain't fought none of them dudes. You ain't fought J-Rock. You ain't fought fucking Herd. You ain't fought motherfucking Charlo. You ain't fought Tony Harrison. You ain't fought no fucking body. Nobody to be calling nobody no bitch. I'm sick of you mangy, lousy piece of shit, pussy motherfuckers trying to come up off of motherfucking black fighters for fucking free. Fuck you. You stay your punk ass over there at Golden Boy. I don't want to see that bullshit fight. I don't want to see none of you motherfuckers coming out of the woodwork like the fucking roaches that you are looking for a fucking handout. Come over here. Your punk ass should have been out here fighting the fucking best. Now you want somebody to hand you a fight so you could just get your roaching ass so your roaching ass can just have something for free. Man, fuck you, man. I don't want to see that bullshit fight. Stay your punk ass over there and keep that whack ass belt over there. I don't give a fuck about no motherfucking WBO belt. Fuck that shit, man. And don't make no motherfucking videos talking about this pussy motherfucker like he's some kind of threat. Cause he ain't. It's bullshit. It ain't even no motherfucking money in Jamel beating up on this motherfucker. Ain't nobody gonna give him no credit for whooping the shit out of that motherfucker. He ain't shit. This motherfucker coming out of the woodwork, calling the man a bitch and all that. Man, you ain't beat nobody at 154. No fucking body. You ain't shit. You understand what I'm saying? Shit. So, I mean, I'm like, man.
Okay, that's enough of that. So there you have it. So you heard what he's talking about, okay? So what is he in his feelings about? Okay, you know, that's the question. I'm gonna give you. Let me tell you what's going on. So when Jamal Charlo, you know, won the two other belts from Jason Rosario, he has, you know, he's unified champ now, so he has 3 belts now, right? There's 4 belts. There's the WBO champion, right? And that the guy he's talking about is the WBO champion, is Patrick Teixeira. So that's the guy he was talking about. Patrick Teixeira called out Jamel Charlo and said, you know, he want to fight Jamel Charlo. He called Jamel Charlo a kitten instead of a lion because Jamel Charlo didn't respond to his first or second call out. So after the 3rd time he called out Jamal, and he didn't hear anything from Jamel, and he didn't hear anything back from Jamel. Jamel didn't say anything. He went on this little thing about calling Jamel a kitten and say he's a bitch and he's going to end his career. Now, I mean, fighters are supposed to fight each other, right? So him calling out this Patrick Teixeira, calling out Jamel Charlo, is what he's supposed to do. He has 1 belt at 154 pounds. Charlo has the other 3 belts. So I'm sure this guy Teixeira wants to be undisputed. Charlo is already stated that he wants to be undisputed at 154 pounds. So naturally, if he wants to be undisputed at 154 pounds, he has to fight Teixeira or whoever has that belt, the WBO belt, to become undisputed. But here's this guy, you know, fan talking about, oh, he don't want to see the fight because this is a roaching ass guy. I mean, what the hell is he talking about? Why wouldn't you want to see Jamel Charlo go over there and take the WBO belt from this guy and become undisputed? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But this is what's going on in boxing, okay? This is what it is, okay? These people I mean, I don't know what the hell they're thinking about. I mean, because if Jamel Charlo goes there and take that belt from Patrick Teixeira, he'll now become undisputed. And that's a rare thing in boxing. That doesn't happen every day. And who wouldn't want to be undisputed? Jamel Charlo has already came out and said he wants to be undisputed at 154 pounds. So why is this guy out there talking about he don't want to see that fight and this and that? I mean, just talking pure foolishness. I mean, all up in his feelings. I mean, what the hell is it all about? Okay? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But, you know, that's what it is, you know. So basically this is the bullshit, you know, that's going on in boxing right now, and again, this is why you see those numbers, you know, pay-per-view for UFC doing 700K while boxing is doing 100K to 120K, and so some of these guys are going around, you know, they have to make up numbers, you know. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And you know, you see this guy is talking about he don't want to see the fight, you know, let them stay over there at Golden Boy. So basically they want to segregate boxing, like I said before. They want just PBC fighters to fight PBC fighters. They want just Golden Boy to fight Golden Boy fighters, and they want Top Rank to fight Top Rank fighters. And so these are the you know, the excuse that they use. The reason why the fight can't happen between Crawford and Errol Spence is because Spence is at PBC, and so Crawford is the top rank, so they can't come across the other side of the street to make the fight, and you know that's why the fight ain't happening. And Crawford got to leave top rank to come to PBC so the fight could happen. I mean, just pure bullshit. But like I said, it's just it's just duck season, and that's just a reason to duck. There's no reason why the fight can't happen, okay? And as you can see by what this guy was just saying about not wanting to see the fight, this is how these guys co-sign the ducking of the fighters, okay? So, I mean, Charlo is not saying that. I mean, Jamel Charlo is not saying he don't want to fight. He says he wants to be a undisputed 154 pounds. So why would this guy be saying that, talking like that? It doesn't make any sense, okay? So how is Jamel Charlo going to become... So he doesn't even want to see Jamel Charlo become undisputed. Because in order for Jamel Charlo to become undisputed, he has to fight for the WBO belt. That's the only way he's going to become undisputed. So you're saying that you don't want Jamel Charlo to fight for that belt. You don't want to fight Patrick Teixeira. Because, what? Patrick Teixeira, what? Why would you want that to happen? I mean, the only thing I can think about is that he's probably afraid that Teixeira might win. Okay? Because if you have confidence in your guy that you believe in, then, I'm thinking that you'd want him to go over there. If this guy ain't shit like he's saying, and the guy don't know, haven't fought nobody tough, and the guy hasn't fight the best, then that's better for Charlo. That's even all the more reason for him to just go over there, since this guy ain't shit, and just take the belt away from him. But, you see his argument. So you see his shit don't make any sense what he's saying. And it's just pure bullshit. Okay, nonsense, really. And so this is the kind of shit that's going on in boxing, but that's bringing boxing down to the ground, making, it's ridiculous. I mean, so hopefully that fight will happen. I would love to see that fight between Jamel Charlo and Patrick Teixeira. Okay, that would be a great fight. The guy Teixeira, he got the title. As a matter of fact, that guy Teixeira, Patrick, he fought a fight with Curtis Stevens at 160 pounds, and he got stopped by Curtis Stevens, and then he came back down to 154 pounds, and eventually won the title from Carlos Adames, and that who was the champion prior to him. So the guy Patrick he's talking about is a WBO champion, okay, who wants to fight the Charlos. Fight Charlo for the title, which is nothing wrong with that. That's what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to fight each other. But you have these guys in his feelings talking bullshit. So this is what the boxing game is coming to right now, and it's a shame, really. I mean, what are you gonna? What it is what it is, though. What can you say? I mean, at this rate, I don't know where boxing is gonna end up. But that's all I have for right now. This is TBE Boxing. I'm out.